Good morning. My name is Grant Whittington, and today I am going to talk to you about paying collegiate athletes. Now, the reason why this is up for debate is because last year the NCAA made $757 million, of which they gave back about $500 million to the member schools. Now, that's a lot of money. College sports are a big business, and if you say they're not, you're only kidding yourself. I mean, if you've ever turned on the BCS title game, or if you watch March Madness, you see how many people go to these games and how big of a deal it is. Even if you're not a sports fan, I'm sure you've noticed, the big deal around it. Okay. So, the debate has come forward whether or not it's a good idea to pay student athletes in collegiate level sports. Currently, it is illegal. Doing so takes away their amateur status. Anything beyond giving them a scholarship to play is wrong. Now, when I say scholarship, that covers, tuition, books, meal plans, and a lot more than that. I believe universities should continue to not give these players a salary, as tuition is a sufficient reward. My reasons that we shouldn't pay these athletes are such: education is really valuable, university offers more than just the payment, and athletes know what they are getting into when they sign to play for a school. Now, my first point, that education is valuable. That's why we're all standing in this classroom today. We understand that going to school is going to help us in our future. It provides opportunities for us to get hired by, the Fortune 500 companies, or start our own company, or whatever you want to do in your career. Dennis Johnson from the Sports Journal, he says, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And I believe this, quote to be pretty relevant. Education is important for all of us. A degree can help you earn $1 million more throughout your career than if, just a high school diploma can. Scholarships can be worth from, $300,000 to $200,000. Depending on whether you go to a private university or a public university, and whether you stay there 1 to 4 years. Actually, I think most scholarships last 5 years. They help you go 1 year into your master's program, if you choose so. I have a friend who signed with a baseball school up in Chicago, and when he was recruited, the guy basically told him, this is like signing a $100,000 signing bonus. That's how much this education is really worth for you, and it'll help you in the future. Major BCS schools already spend more than $100,000 per athlete. And I got that from CBSSports.com. This is for BCS schools, which would be, your U of I, your USC, the big schools that you see on TV on Saturdays that make all the money. But education's also more than just a monetary amount, and I think we can all attest to that. It's more than just a payment going to these big schools. It offers free perks. Your tuition and fees are paid for. Your room and board. You get free gear, which is always nice. Even around campus here, you see people walking around with red book bags. And if we went to a big school, you'd see them all wearing their, jumpsuits from the university. They get meal plans that would make what we eat look ridiculous. They get things tailored, to their own nutritional needs. Now you can begin to see how all this really adds up. This drives up tuition for the students who do pay and get much less. They travel around the country to play their sport, and they see things that we don't get to see here just in Edwardsville. It offers more exposure too. This is a makeup of what a student athlete does and some of their costs. But back to the exposure. The school pretty much has free marketing for them. The student athlete just signs in the dotted line, and the school sets up, has these games where they're in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and the school does all the promoting. The large fan bases across the country help. They know your name if you play for their school. They spread the word of your ability. If you play in a rivalry night, a Saturday night, prime time, millions of people watch, your name gets out there. My next point is that many student athletes say that they are taken advantage of, and they cannot go out and get a job, which I understand not having a job, but I disagree that, they truly need it. They sign these detailed contracts. They know what they're getting into. They're wordy but very precise. And according to the National Letter of Intent website, signing a scholarship is at least worth 1 year. So if you're not happy with it, you can get out of it after a year. If you want a job that bad, you can go get a job. You don't have to stay playing the sport if that's not important to you. To play college athletics, you have to maintain an amateur status, which according to uslegal.com, amateur is defined as someone who participates purely for love of the sport and did not expect compensation for athletic performance. So they can't be paid and they can't accept gifts. The athletes know these restrictions, but they push the boundaries and still break rules anyways. I'm sure that you have heard of many scandals about, players getting paid. If they do get paid, they lose their amateur status, and they can, and if we do begin to pay these college athletes, where does it stop? They can receive gifts, and going to school will turn into a bidding war among the different boosters. Whoever can pay the most to an athlete. So the larger schools will win out. The smaller schools won't get these athletes, and then won't make the revenue. So I believe that student athletes receive enough benefits from the university that they represent. I understand they sacrifice and sometimes feel undercompensated, but they need to remember the things they are receiving. Very expensive tuition is paid for. The student athlete receives a very comfortable living situation, which is covered by the school. All the things a student athlete needs to be able to succeed is taken care of by the university. All the student athlete needs to do is, play their part and play their sport as best as they can.